Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to show 243 with yours truly, the hippie pastor. That would be me. No, on the right hand, that is not me, that picture. That's just some human being confused about his sexuality. Funny that basically humans are the only species on the planet that are confused about their sexuality. All the rest of the animals pretty much know what they are not confused. And to the left we have an illustration of the kind of people that are running this planet. The governments and the kingdoms of this world were given unto Satan, and so people without the right spirit are running the planet. So don't take it personal and don't freak out and don't have faith in mankind. Have faith in yourself and in God only. This is show 243. In show 242, I was talking about how Jesus himself and his disciples thought that he was coming back, the second coming, the return of Christ on the white horse and the wings in a cloud, was going to be in their lifetime. That's what they thought. And I proved that in the last show, 242, with many biblical references, but there's one biblical reference on the subject that I forgot to include, and this one is in the book of John. Okay, at the end of the book of John, in chapter 21, the last chapter of the four Gospels, the last chapter of John, where Jesus is saying bye-bye before he pulls a Peter Pan, he goes flying into heaven in the Holy Ascension. He was there saying goodbye to his disciples, and he said to Peter, Peter saw that the disciple whom Jesus loved, the disciple whom Jesus loves. I thought he loved all of them, but obviously there was one that he loved maybe more than the rest. So Peter turned, and seeing the disciple whom Jesus loved, this is in chapter 21 of the book of John. I'm going to read you verses 20, 21, and 22. The same one which was leaning on Jesus' side during the Last Supper, and had told them, "Who shall betray thee?" When Peter saw him, he said to Jesus, "Lord, what about this one?" And Jesus answered and said to Peter, what if I will that he remain until I come? What is that to thee? Follow thou me. So Jesus was telling them that they were going to suffer just like him, be martyred. They were going to have to give their lives for their cause, for God. And so Peter was asking Jesus, well, what about this guy, the one you love, John, the Apostle John? What about him? And because Jesus had not said that John was going to be martyred like the rest of them. And Jesus said, what if I will that he remain until I return? What is that to thee? Follow thou me. That's it. Take it as you want and study it for yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, as you may have noticed, the title of this show is Jesus Help Me. Jesus Help Me is the words that proceeded to emanate from my inner soul, my inner being. When I was, I started taking drugs at the age of 14, slipping glue, marijuana. Then I went on progressing toward LSD. Before I took LSD, I had become an atheist because my father had passed away when I was at the young age of 14 or so. And so I decided to become an atheist. Before that, I was an altar boy of the Catholic Church, but I got really angry at God because I didn't understand why he took away my dad when I was only 14. So I became a declared atheist at that point. But when I took my first trip of LSD, let me tell you, ladies and gents, I could no longer say I was an atheist, because LSD and I guess some of those other hallucinogenic drugs like mescaline or San Pedro, cactus, peyote, ayahuasca. All these things connect you with the spirit world, and I was able to see clearly that there is a rhyme and a reason to Mother Nature. I don't believe in church. I try to stay away, but if you want to believe in church, that's fine. But I found my church in nature, Mother Nature, the beach, the forest, the lakes, the birds, and the bees. That's where you see God. Nature reveals the personality of God, not a church, empty church building, or even if it's full of nicely dressed assistants to the church. So that's my idea. So anyway, but when I took LSD and I was a hippie, I started believing in God, but I did not like Christianity. The Judeo-Christian culture was not for me. I just liked God in a freestyle. Interpret it your own way. And I think that's the way it should be. So anyway, yes, you may know by now that when you get into drugs, at first it's beautiful. It's so beautiful, especially LSD. That had some nice experiences until I started having some bad trips. And so therefore, I started getting depressed, suicidal. I got lost in the sauce. I lost my compass in life. My idea was to be a hippie and change the world with the hippie revolution, but then the hippie revolution died, or whatever, it disappeared, it was gone. I was lost. I wasn't a college boy, I didn't go to university, I barely finished high school, and my purpose of life was to change the world with the hippie revolution, and when it was gone, I was gone, mentally lost. This is when I started searching for God, but since I did not like Christians and I did not believe the entire Bible, which I still do not, I started reading the words of Jesus. I said, well, maybe Jesus was a cool dude, you feel me? He was crucified with criminals, right? He wore long hair and sandals like a hippie, hung out with hookers, hung out with sinners, drank wine with sinners, eating and drinking. Seemed to have a good life and a good head on his shoulders. So I said, man, he sounds like one of us. So I started studying abruptly the words of Jesus. The first word of Jesus that I studied, that I came across, was in Matthew. I believe it's chapter 11, verse 15, or chapter 15, verse 11. I think it's whatever, where Jesus says in the book of Matthew, not that which goes into the mouth defiles a man, but that which comes out of his heart, this defiles a man. So I was so surprised to notice that Jesus was more into the inside, not so much the outside, like not judgment, like the worldly religious, they judge you on the outward appearance. Oh, that looks like a real sinner. He's probably going to hell. No, Jesus seemed to judge on the inside, on your feelings, on your heart. That's a beautiful thing. And when I came across that verse, not that which goes into the mouth defiles a man, but that which comes out of his heart. I interpreted that, because Christians would condemn us for smoking marijuana, for drinking beer, for smoking a cigarette. They say you're going to hell. So they were judging us by what we were putting in our mouth. But Jesus said, not what goes into the mouth defiles a man, but that which comes out of his heart. So that to me was a bomb, a bombshell. I said, oh no, yeah, I'm convinced, man, this Jesus is cool. And then, to make a long story short, when I got down to the real depression and I didn't know what to do, I was having this nightmare, very vivid, that I was dying. And out of my soul, out of my heart, from in the interior of me, came the three words, Jesus, help me. Very slowly. And as I opened my mouth to let these words out, and I said them, I was immediately inundated with peace, a peace that I had never really known, although I was a hippie all about peace and love, but interior peace, I don't think I had. And love. I did not have love for others. I was very paranoid and hardened, and I wanted to change the world, but I hated the system. I don't agree with it still, but I wasn't full of love. But in my heart, all of a sudden, I became full of love, full of peace and love, and I wanted to help others and give love and talk about God, and it was a revolution in my soul, without church, without a pastor, without giving my 10% tithe to anyone, just between me and God. And that's the way it should be. Ladies and gents, I say hasta luego for now. That's part of my testimony, how I started changing the world at the young age of 21. A lot of decades have gone by, and when I was already, my life was over. I ended up having children, grandchildren, pretty soon great-grandchildren. So God gave me a life. Thank you, Jesus. See you all later. Bye.